Hey everybody, and welcome back to this video series on building the LearnBook project with Noodle. And just like the previous episode, I'm going to just go through the usual process that I would go through in this development process, but talking a little bit about how I'm doing things in Noodle and why I'm doing things in that way. And so last time we had finished off just doing a really simple intro into how we build our sort of first element to get our feet wet. Today I think I'm going to talk about styles a bit more, and then look at packaging things into reusable components, and then look at how we can use that to switch between a login page and a register page. And I had another idea which I can't remember, but it'll come to me anyway. We'll see how far we get with that today, and maybe move on to something else next time, another page. But this is a great opportunity just to see how the sort of basic components in Noodle work, and really getting a feel for the styles. The first text, the first elements, the first inputs on the page that are all styled in like a default Noodle style that we can give our own style to, that then will be pervasive through the rest of the app. So we have like a button here, we have fields, we have text, headers and regular text, even like link text and stuff like that. So we've got plenty of things that we can do style wise. Oh yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say was I'm going to type some chapter titles as I'm going, so that I don't forget where I'm talking about what. So that was the introduction, and now we're moving on to chapter 2, which is styles. So I'll send that. Does that work? Yeah. So then I can check the YouTube chat afterwards and see where the different chapters are, because I'm really lazy and I don't want to watch the whole video again. So styles. Last time we had a look at the inputs. So we started on inputs, had this standard orange input style. So I think the only thing I did last time was I changed the outline. I think it was the outline, wasn't it, to orange? Yeah, the outline turned to orange, and the label turned orange. So we can do more things with inputs. It could be nice if you want to edit a style that you've already applied. You select that style and select on edit variant, and then we can change things around that style and then close, and that should apply to all the other elements that have been styled that way. I'm not 100% up to speed on what Noodle styles do, and I know that they're not 100% perfect in terms of some things are considered part of the style, some not. And like when you override styles with your own custom values, that sometimes makes things a bit messy when it comes to like changing styles in other places. But let's just assume that it's going to work okay. And we're going to go and edit the label, because I wanted to check that the label and the text that goes in there is of the font of our mock-ups from the designer. So I think I haven't got the official font back yet, but I think this is something towards Roboto, Google font. So Roboto. Anyway, so let's do the label first. So the label text styles here, and this is textile label medium. So I want to go and find out what that is. Text style. Yeah, body medium. Oh, okay, so we'll go body medium, body. So we want to check that and edit that and say, oh, it's already Roboto, so that's awesome. And label, is that also Roboto? Yeah, so we don't actually need to change that. But if we wanted to, we could have gone, I think it's label, but body medium, for example, is the text inside the box. We could have changed that to a different font here, and then that would also change this text style. So we can add new text styles if we want to. These are the default ones. But if we modify a text style, then that will modify it everywhere else that text style is applied. So anyway, so that looks good. The text style is good, the label style would be good then, so we don't need to change that. That's awesome. things like forgot password, maybe that could be, I know that we have primary colors in the app are orange and blue. The yellow is sort of reserved for learners. So I don't know, blue I think is from the designer supposed to be used for anything that has to do with lessons, and then orange is just kind of like the app color. So, but then I don't really like making things orange all the time. It's a bit of a weird color. So not to like add the text that are clickable, it's a bit, anyway, let's see what it looks like. We can try. So let's see if forgot password, so I don't have style variants yet for text, so I'm going to just design it manually, and if I like it then I'll make it into a style variant. So we're going to create a new text style, imagining that this is going to be, we're going to call it clickable text, and we're going to stick with Roboto of course, and we're going to change that to our LearnBook orange. So see, that's like that kind of light orange is not good for, it doesn't look pretty, but it's also not good contrast wise. I think when you get something like that on a white background, it's not necessarily the best for somebody who has maybe sight problems. That might not be great. So let's see if we can change that to something bold, for example. Yeah, do we have semi-bold? Semi-bold? No, we don't. Black, italic, bold. Medium. That's not bad. Leave it like that for now and talk to the designer afterwards. I mean, let's see if in the designs we have any other evidence of clickable text. And let's just have a quick look through. Clickable text. No. So we have to talk to the designer about clickable. Well, there she's put it in blue. I would like it to be in blue as well. There are like selected buttons are in blue as well, so I'm gonna go with blue. I have the blue stored in here. There's my blue. I like mirror over this kind of stuff. You know, just zooming in and out is my favorite thing to do. So we're gonna add a new color, and we're gonna call it LearnBook. Blue. And then we have to edit that, of course, because it's just orange now. So LearnBook blue is this color. Does that work? There. Oh, it's a nice kind of purpley blue. Hope that's right. These are things that I'll double check. It's a bit of a strange contrast, orange and blue there. Is that the same as what it looks like here? I'll leave it for now. The point of adding styles is that like just leave it for now, and then later I'll come back and check, and I can just go in and change it here, and then I'll change it everywhere, so that will be perfect. So let's say maybe because it's clickable that we want to underline it. Would that be a nice thing to do? So text style, clickable text, where are we? No, it's not here. Where's underlined? Am I going crazy? Letter spacing, line spacing, case, no. So there's no underline. Oh well. Somebody did ask the Noodl guys about it at one point. Why is there no underline? I guess you could put it in CSS styles, but I'm not going to do that right now. So let's add that as our style variant. We said we wanted to have style variant, so we're going to call this clickable text. And we'll come back to it later and change it if we need to. I probably would like it to have a kind of hover state as well, for example. So let's see, that was neutral, hover. What if hover state is orange then? Or a lighter blue, for example, like that. Could be nice, you know, then it's really obviously clickable. Could be good. So just leave that like that for now. Lighter blue, that's in the hover state, so that's good. And then this text, all I have to do is go and select my text style and select clickable text, and it doesn't work. No, of course it doesn't work because I have to select the style variant clickable text. Haha. There we go. Looking good. Well, not looking good, but like it's looking like something. So that's that. Headers, text. Do we go blue or orange? What does designer say? Appears to be a kind of brownish black. But this is me being like so impatient because I could just also wait for the designer to come back with the actual color codes and stuff. But like I said, if they're in there and they're done, then anyway. So I'm just gonna do a quick. Oh no, I was trying to do a quick color extraction, but it looks like it's actually not just one clear color. Let's try this one. 895136. 895136. 5136. So ChatGPT is converting it for me. Okay. And so let's add a color that's going to be called header brown. Header brown, and let's see what that looks like. Am I going to be completely wrong? Again, it doesn't really matter. That's really brown. It's weird. Anyway, let's say that we're going to make that welcome text header brown. Well, it is already header brown. Oh yeah, okay, you don't really notice it. It's funky. This is all very funky and probably very wrong, but whatever. So that's good. And then we're going to say the title large. So this is me overriding the style. So this is not necessarily very good. If I want to make this permanent, I should go into title large and I should say title large is now going to be this color. And then it means that when I select title large anywhere, then that will be the same font color. So that's a good idea. Okay, so that's a little bit about styles. I'm really not tip top about styles, so this is this is not supposed to be a tutorial anyway. This is just getting a view of how I would be styling things and how I'm going to continue styling things as we move through the app. So I'm just going to do a little update there and say now we're going to talk about reusable components. Okay, so obviously the next step is going to be we've got our login box, but we don't have a sign up box. So time to go to the whole reusable elements thing. So in Bubble, coming from the Bubble world, we have reusable elements, really handy things to use. In Noodle, whereas in Bubble, I felt like reusable elements are really when you have to reuse something, right? So not just for packaging things up. I know when I use Airtable, the AirDev canvas at one point, that felt like this is a step towards really packaging visual elements into clear chunks and then using those chunks no matter whether they're only used once. Like having a footer might just be used once, but just because it's sort of, packaged together like that, that makes it easier to work with. And in Noodle, you really kind of quickly understand that packaging things up into reusable components is just a good practice, because the amount of things going on the screen, it can become very, very messy if I were to put the login box and just say, I'll add a sign up box at the bottom here. That's going to end up being incredibly messy, just because you're going to be scrolling down to look at what the sign up stuff is doing, or and there might be interconnecting noodles and stuff like that. And this is a small example, but it can get really, really messy. So what we're going to do is we're going to package this login box up into a reusable element, or I'm going to put it in its own reusable login, or maybe I'll use this container, keep the container, but yeah, so I'm going to keep the container and I'm going to put everything that's inside it we're going to to call this login sign up box, and then we're going to call this login group, and then we're going to put everything from here into login group. So now it's child login group. So that did that work? Why did that go weird? How come login group is so much smaller than oh, because I had vertical gaps there. So I have to put a vertical gap here as well, and then take the vertical gap out of this, and then that should be all fine. So it's a content. It's kind of a content width. I'm wondering why it's not going to the full size of the login box. What did I do here? Oh, because I put padding. Duh. Great. But that's fine, because then we just keep that same padding on the main container that we're going to use for the sign up box as well. So keep that padding out of there. So this whole login flow that I've got here, all of these elements here, I want to package them up. So I have a reusable login group. So I'm going to copy all of this. Right. And then I'm going to go, and so this is a question of organization. In Noodle, I like to organize myself this way. It depends whether you want to keep your reusable components like I do in the context where they're used, or do you want to have like different sheets that have like, you know, maybe different folders that contain different reusable elements. That could be a handy thing to do, and you'll see me creating folders later. Folders are really, really useful. But for the moment, I'm just going to use this slightly messier logic of saying within the login page, I've got a login reusable element and a sign up reusable element. And they're going to be like children of the login page, but they're only children in the sense of the organization of the component tree, not actually in the object model. So it doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter, quote unquote, matter where you put the components in the end. You can really sort of organize them as you like in this left pane, because in the right pane it doesn't actually make a difference. In the actual front end or the logic or anything, it doesn't make a difference. Anyway, let's make a visual component. We're going to call it login group or login box, whatever. So that becomes a child of that in the hierarchy of your kind of organization of your project. It gets a group by default, because if it doesn't have a group, it's a logic component. If it doesn't have a visual group, I mean, then it's a logic component. So if I delete this, then it becomes a logic component just by nature. And you'll see later how that matters when something is a logic component or a visual component. But I'm deleting that group just because I already have a parent group, and each reusable component can only have one like overall parent group, one main parent group. And then everything else should be a child of that. Similarly to as how a page has just one page element and everything else is a child of the page, you have to have the kind of top level element in a visual component as well, where everything else is a child. So I deleted the original group so I could use my group instead. So what does that do? Everything here is just now kind of compartmentalized, and I can, which might be a bit scary, but I can delete all of this. Oh my goodness. And then I drag my visual component in and stick it under here, and there it is. So like magic, it doesn't really do anything that different. It's just packaging it up into one node, and I can actually find that node here in my project components in the node picker. It means that if I go later into, say in the dashboard, I want there to be a logout button that sticks up a pop-up afterwards that says, do you want to log back in, and not go to the login page, well, I can just reuse the login box over there, and that'll do the same thing as it does here. So it's really good practice in general. Now what we want to do is take this sort of same configuration and turn that into a sign-up box. So I'm not going to use the login logic. I'm just selecting these elements because I'm going to copy them. And then in the login page, I'm going to make, or what I could do, no, actually, here's the easier way. My login box, I'm going to click and duplicate it. And then I'm going to rename that sign-up box. So right now it's the same, exactly. I have to go in and rename because naming conventions, naming, good practice. Sign up group, welcome text should still be there, email input will still be there. We're going to have probably a password and maybe a password confirmation or something like that. Could be fun. And then login button is going to be sign up. Sign up. Forgot password we don't need because you're not going to forget your password if you're signing up. Go to sign up is going to be go to login. And the text is going to be already have an account. Log in. There we go. All this can go because I don't need this anymore. I'm going to use something else. And so that's good. And we're going to work on the logic of that afterwards. But that was just to see a little bit about how that works in terms of reusable components. So this component now I'm going to put it in the same hierarchy as the login box. I'm going to put this as a sibling of the sign up box, login box, sign up box. So I can see, I know that I didn't change the title. So welcome to LearnBook. Please sign up below. So I got please log in below and please sign up below in two different boxes with sign up and password. What should I have put? Confirm your password. And I guess I'm going to want the first name and the last name as well. Probably next to each other, side by side. I hope that works on mobile. We'll see. So let's put a couple of inputs there. I'll just copy them because then I get the style copied as well, which is handy. So email input is going to become, no, actually, let's not do that. Let's change this first. First name input, your first name, and the type is going to be text. And then we're going to copy that. It'll be easier to copy that one and call it last name input. Your last name. Okay, and now they're in a vertical group, so I've got to change them to a horizontal one. And now that's totally overflowed, gone crazy. So I'm going to change this to having 40% width. Is that good? No, that's terrible. And 40% width. Okay, and then there's going to be a horizontal gap of 10. Is that right? Yeah, I'm not crazy. Are they the same width? I'm really bad at this stuff. Name inputs. That looks okay. Your first name, your last name, your email, password, confirm your password, sign up. Nice. So now we've got a nice little reusable element sign up box and reusable element login box. And the next thing we're going to have to look at is like A, how do we get the sign up flow to go, and B, how do we switch, because this looks really dumb. Maybe I'll do the switching thing first because it's a bit easier. So this is going to be a section about a chapter in my YouTube video called switching between components. This is really important, like this is quite fundamental in Noodle and in development in general. How do we switch between, so I mean, I battled with myself coming up to this because I know that there's things you can do in Noodle because it's so flexible. You can do things where, for example, you could argue that me creating two of these elements is inefficient, because if I then decide, oh, actually the field here is, I don't know, not right, then I have to change it to do something else. It means I have to change this field in the login box, and then I have to go into the sign up box and change it as well. So development wise, that would be considered inefficient. The most efficient would be if I took a bit of extra time at the beginning and made one reusable element that has something feeding into it that tells it you're a login box or you're a sign-in box. And then inside here, there would be like a dynamic form, where the form is populated by an array that I've constructed myself, a JSON array, and the different fields are labeled the right way. So it's like, this is a sign up field, this is a login field. And so I did want to kind of do that just to show it, but it's actually sometimes more trouble than it's worth. And when it's this kind of thing where I know that I've got, where I know that I've only got these two, and it's not going to be 3 or 4 different forms, I kind of feel like taking the lazy way out and the inefficient way out. But and then taking a hit when it comes to the future, and I'm like, oh, now I have to change the button or whatever, and so I have to change it in 2 places instead of 1. That's just a choice you have to make in this kind of process, in the development process. And so I'm making it anyway. So we're going to talk about how to switch between them. Because we have 2, we don't have an outside system that switches and then changes the form inside the box dynamically. We're just going to use 2 separate boxes and switch between them and hide one and show the other one. So the best way to do this in Noodl, when there's a kind of what are you question, like am I a login, am I a sign up, then we will be using the states node. So the states node is Bubble had states when I used Bubble, but Bubble states were more like ways of just storing an object, like storing an array or storing a text or storing a Boolean value or something like that. States are really like kind of a way of constructing an object in advance and then saying that this object has different variants and what are the different fields in each variant. So I'm going to have a login object with variants where the same variants are in the sign up object, and that's going to determine a lot of things about what happens inside the group here. So we're going to have let's say that login is the default state, and that's the default state is here, and the sign up is going to be the kind of alternative state, right? So login is going to be when you're in the login state, we're going to say what we get is this option here from states. You get the name of the state that currently is, so it, like literally the name that I typed there, so it would output login if the state was currently login. You get a signal when the state is changed. The problem with this is it's only when it's literally changed, like it goes from sign up to login. If I just say go to login and it's already login, it won't fire the changed state because it will be like, yeah, I'm already logged in, so I haven't changed. So that's something to be aware of. Sometimes it's worth having a kind of default state and having that be the default state, and then that there will definitely be a change from default to login or from default to sign up, so that that's going to fire something, and then stick it back to default when you're done, so that the next time the user clicks something it goes back to either login or sign up. But I'm not going to do that. What I want is for it to be login by default, and then it go to something else. So what would be cool here would be if I had a title perhaps externally to the login and sign up form boxes, and had for example, well, that's a cool thing to do actually. That would have been a cool thing to do. Let's do that cool thing. So we're going to take the welcome text out, take it out, put it here. And we're going to call this login form instead. You can see this seems like more work than is necessary, but I feel like this is a fun example. So login form, sign up form. Okay, so we have the welcome text. We're going to have the already have an account login text. Take that one out. And we're going to have the button as well, because that'll be fun. I want the button. Oh, no, okay. Oh, yeah, okay. No, we're gonna take it out. We're gonna take it out. Take the button out. Take the button out. Why am I giving myself all this headache? Well, you'll see. You will see. So take out welcome text, name inputs and everything, leave that. Sign up button, take it out. Go to login, take it out. And then I'm going to take the button out of this workflow out. And here. So this is more efficient in terms of reusability. And what I'm doing here is making sure that there's one place I need to go if I want to change certain things, and not 500 places. So, oh, and this I want to take out as well, actually. And this, and all, just take it all. It's all gone. So I forgot password goes there. Okay, so now I have one login box that has two distinct forms, either a sign up form or a login form. And those forms don't have the button inside the component anymore. Why? Because the state is actually a handy way to not have to go back into each group and change individual texts and button labels and things like that. I've now reduced myself down to one button instead of instead of having two buttons, one of them hidden, one of them shown. I'm reducing down the number of elements that are hidden and shown, because in the end, efficiency wise, that's going to reduce the load on the cache of the browser. If the user goes from sign up to login, then all the elements in both sign up and login have been shown and so are cached somewhere. Whereas if we just have one button and it has different states, then that's the one button that gets cached, and whether they go from login or sign up, it's the same. And it's also because I get to show you the awesomeness of the states node. So I'm turning transitions off because that's something you can play with later when it comes to like CSS transitions. Right now I just want to have a straight transition between the two different states. So we're going to have welcome text. We're going to have button label. We're going to have forgot password mounted. And that's all. So this means that we set first the type. So the welcome text is a string, the button label is a string, and the forgot password is a boolean. Because when I'm in login state, I'm going to get access to all of these cool values. So I'm going to get access, for example, to this text. Welcome to LearnBook, please log in below. Oh no, I'm not, because I can even copy text. Copy, please? No, don't want to. No, we don't want to. Okay, I'll type it out. Welcome to LearnBook. Gosh dang it. Can I not go down one line? No, doesn't matter. Please log in below. We'll figure that out later. Button label is login. Forgot password mounted is yes, because when you're logging in you do see the forgot password thing. And then the other one would be welcome to LearnBook, please sign in below. And then button label would be no, did I say sign in? Of course I did. Sign up. Sign up. Forgot password mounted. No, it's going to be false. Now our login sign up states node is suddenly very powerful, because it can, from the state node, give me whatever the current welcome text is. So wherever the state is going to output the welcome text of that state. So I know that my welcome text will always be correct. And you see that it didn't do the new line thing, so I'm going to have to figure that out, but I'll figure that out later. The button label goes to the button. And the forgot password mounted, it will be true or false, and so we connect that to the mounted input of the forgot password group, and it will unmount it when it's false, which means when we get to sign up, it's going to unmount it. And finally, when we are at login, I want my component to mount, but look, we have no inputs because we've created a custom component we've created no inputs for our custom component. So I can't say if it's mounted or unmounted yet. I have to go in here and say component inputs. I have to define an input. I'm going to call it mounted. I'm going to connect mounted to the group. Mounted. This means that outside the component, I'm going to get access to this mounted input, and it's going to know that it's a true false because it's connected to the mounted input of the group. If an input, a component input, is directly connected to a certain type of input, then outside the input, suddenly you get mounted and unmounted. So now I can do this. And this will work for, like, if I selected a color, for example, say I said I want to know what color this is from the outside, and I connect that up to the background color of the input, then outside the component, suddenly I have a color picker called color. So whatever inputs you put on that component become your own personal parameters pane when you're placing that component somewhere. So it's really, really cool and powerful. So I'll delete that because I don't need that. It's just an example. I'm going to do the same thing for the sign up form. Component inputs and mounted. Again, this is where someone would say, yeah, this is inefficient because you could have made these fields dynamic and then you wouldn't have had to put mounted twice. Could have just put it once, but whatever. I'm being sort of lazy and sort of incomprehensible, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. So login state, when it's at the login state, that means, you know, I'm login, okay, I'm true. At login is true, I'm going to mount that. And when I'm at sign up state, then I'm going to mount the sign up form. And then, so you see that one of them is true and one of them is false by default. So that's basically all I have to do. Now I have the login form and everything is hunky-dory, rosy-daisy, except for that, but that's good. And I have that mounted and perfect. And so now, yeah, I'm in my login state and that's great, happy days. But how do I go from login to sign up? Well, we have our go to sign up button. Now this is a bit complicated because I took it out of the reusable component. I can't just say, I did forget something as well, which is the go to text. Don't have an account. Sign up. Oh, for goodness sake, because I left it as a number. I hate that that's a number by default. It's so silly. Sorry, I should say it. Already. No. Don't have an account. Sign up is the message when we're in the login mode, and when we're in sign up mode, it's already have an account, log in, and then we connect that to this text, go to text, done. Don't have an account, sign up. So we would be able to connect this to the state and say when somebody clicks this, well actually the group that contains it is much easier. When somebody clicks this, then go to login state, for example, but we don't have that. We have two options. We either toggle, and this is just, we're lucky because we have two states, so toggling is just going to go from one to the other, so that's in our case the easiest way to do it. But otherwise we could have had some sort of condition here that says when, you know, is this login state? Yes, and then when we click, it evaluates the condition, and if it's login is true, and it goes and makes it to sign up mode, and if it's login false, then it puts it back to login mode, for example. But we're lucky here, we can just connect it to the toggle, and that'll just switch in between every time. So that means if I click here, duck, ta-da, ta-da, so it's toggling each time because we just have those two states, and it's definitely either one or the other. Then that's an easy fix. And that's how we switch between groups in Noodle. You can see all the things lighting up as they're passing the new data out. It's great. I love it. Love it. But now we have nothing connected up. So let's do one last section today, which is going to be called logic. So sign up and login logic. Okay, so we disconnected this whole thing. That's kind of sad. We need to have that connected to login, and I want to have it that when we click the button here, that button triggers this workflow rather than it triggering it from inside the form. So we can leave it here, but it's kind of good practice to think, okay, I'm going to have the login flow here, and then I'm going to have a sign up flow below it. Is that good? Maybe not. So I should do some logic components. So let's do a logic component. I'm going to store all this logic in a component. Log user in. We automatically get component inputs and outputs when we've selected that, but we could have manually put component inputs and outputs in there. Like I said earlier, if it's got a group, it's a visual component. If not, it's logic. And then in that case, you would be putting inputs and outputs yourself just by picking them from the node picker. So let's take these out and put them in there. And okay. So what are we going to need for this? We need the login to have a username and password. So let's say that the inputs are going to be email, because the email is the username in my case, and password. It seems weird having the password pass through strings, but you don't see this. You don't see the node graph when it's deployed, so it's not dangerous having the password passing through strings in the deployed version. So we connect up username, email to username, and password to password. And then we can connect the do signal, which is a default in component inputs. But again, you could add your own input signals. It doesn't have to be the default one. We connect that to the do signal of the login. So when we call this function, it's going to go do, and it's going to execute based on the username and password that we entered there, and then navigate to the page that we want it to go to. So that's great. Now we're going to put log user in here. And we're going to say when we click on the button, where's the button there? The button is going to log user in, but is it going to log the user in every time? No, it's going to log the user in only when we're on the login page, right? So this is where the expression comes in handy. So state, current state equals login. So expressions just take simple, what will come in the parentheses of a JavaScript expression, just calculations, but it's really handy for evaluating true falses. So we're going to say the state connects to the state, and so the state is login. That will evaluate as true. So when we click the button, which is going to be called the sign up login button, because it can be one or the other depending on the state, it's going to first, when we click it, evaluate that expression. So it'll do it every time you click it, and if the current state is login, then it's on true, it is login, it's going to go and do the login workflow, right? And if not, we're just going to duplicate this and make the sign user, I was using small letter, sign user up. So we're going to delete this stuff. I'll keep the toasts. I'll keep the toasts because I'm being lazy. Now the sign user up has a bit more detail. The sign user up doesn't just have email password, it has confirm password. It has, no, we don't need to confirm password. We're going to do an evaluation in the sign up flow, in the sign up component, to see if the password is definitely the same, and then release the password after that, something like that. So I'll not put it here just yet, but we do need to have the first name of the user and the last name of the user. I'm going to connect that, of course, to a sign up node. And of course we don't have first name and last name because I haven't added them into my database yet. So let's go and do that. So I'm going to make a first name column. I'm not going to make it required. I find this to be like, if you really need it, then do it. If you want it to make sure like nobody's allowed to enter something without it, that's maybe a good way to do it. But I don't. Even if I think it's going to be required, and then if it's not required in one exceptional case, you're stuck. So just leave it not required if you don't need it. First name, last name, all good. So sign up, and there we are, first name, last name. So connector up, email goes to email, email also goes to username because it's the same. Password goes to password, first name goes to first name, and last name goes to last name. And then the do signal goes to do. And if it succeeds, we're going to call our toast, and if it fails, we're going to call our failure toast. So sorry, something went wrong. Please try again. So this is not a ideal thing, because in sign up we should be telling the user like the password is not valid or the email is not correct or something like that, but we're not doing that right now because it's a little bit too late in the evening for those kind of things. So sign up successful, redirecting to dashboard, sounds good. And then it navigates to the dashboard, so that's all great. We don't need any component outputs. I just need that input. Nice. Okay, that's good. We can put now our sign up component, logic component next to our login component and say when the current state is not login, when it's false that it's login, then we're going to do sign up. I'll put them on top of each other, be a bit nicer. Nice. Okay, that's going good, except the stuff that we have inside our login form is kind of not connected at all to our component here. So we have different choices of what we can do. We can create component outputs here and have email and password go to outputs, and then there'll be two outputs here, email, password, that goes into the login form. So that could be just like two noodles connecting there, and then this sign up form would have outputs email, password, first name, last name, so there'd be four noodles connecting in here. So we'll do that for login form just as an example. Show your work. So email output, password output. So the email text is the email output, and the password text is the password output. And then here the login form has email output, which goes to the email input, password output, which goes to the password input, right? So that's nice, but it could look a little bit messy. So this, I would say, is not going to be the way we'll do it today. We're going to do it in a way that I think is really worth showing, because it's a really, really handy way of doing things. We're going to use something called a component object, right? Component object, because it's just one node. It's a little bit tidier. Component object, and we can actually piggyback off the fact that there's email and password in both the sign up and login form, and just make that one output here at the top level. So a component object is a storage device, an object in JavaScript that sits at this level. The component object sits at this level, and it'll be fed stuff. Either it'll be fed stuff directly, or it'll be fed stuff by child components that have a parent component object node that will basically get fed information and look for wherever the nearest up its hierarchy component object is and add that information to that component object. So it's a way of sort of invisibly linking by defining an object and then updating that object in other places, invisibly linking the different points of data together. And it's going to be handy because I'm actually not even going to need these anymore, these component inputs. I'm not going to be connecting them up. It's all going to be very invisible. I'm going to be doing this. This might not be the best way to do it, but I just love component objects. So it already sees the parent component object node. When you hover, it sees that there is a component object at the level of login and sign up login page. That's good. So we're going to give it some values, email and password. Have to remember them because they have to be the same everywhere, the same writing, same spelling. So on the component object, I'm also going to put email and password. And then in the login form, I'm going to put another parent component object that will again look for that higher level object, which is found already, and add in here email and password. The email text is going to go into that component. It looks so similar to a component output, and it kind of is in a way, but it's just, it doesn't need to have the noodles connecting it, so it makes things tidier. If you have lots of different strands of information coming out, it can make things much tidier and confine those strands just to one element. Password is going to password. So I'm not doing a set parent component object node to like manually say when it should be set or not. I'm just saying if there's any output here, just make it the value of the parent component object. So what does that actually give us in the end? If I type something, if I type something in here, and then in here, password, the information is fed into the parent component object, and you can see that it appears as values in that object. And here I have email, password. If I go into my log the user in flow, then I also have the same information. So now I can just feed that into here. Email goes to username. Email goes to, password goes to password. Why does it not let me put the email in there? Hold on a gosh darn second. Username, password. Oh, because it's login. Stupid. Okay, so that's good. That's what we want. So these two bits of information go in here. So we've transferred things from here out to here and down into here. So just that component object. We're going to call this login or sign up details. Okay, and then with the sign up form, it's even better because we're going to have lots of noodles in here, but not have to pull them out and have the same 5 noodles going all over the place. So this one is going to be email again, password again, but we also this time have first name and last name. So first name, where are we? Text, first name, text, last name, email is email, and I'm going to put the first password input as the password, and we'll hook up the whole confirm password logic later, but let's just put it as that for now. So that's great, email, password, and etc. So if I switch over and start typing stuff, and automatically my component object gets updated. Now at this level, you can see that it's being displayed, right? First name, last name, but look what happens when I try to take it out. It's not there because I haven't set the components here. So if I set the properties, first name and last name, and you'll see this in a lot of different places in Noodle, that you can have an object that shows data, like the editor knows that there's data, but it's saying you haven't told me that there's an actual output called first name, so I'm not going to let you have that output until you define it. You have to hard code it, or else I'll not let you take it out. Sometimes with certain things you do, like objects that are populated, not objects, records that are populated from a repeater, a record has all of the fields from the database already in it, so you don't have to type them out, but a lot of object components have this caveat that you have to actually type it in. I don't even actually need to type it in here because I'm not going to output it anywhere. I could literally just delete this if I wanted to, and I would still have the same object. It's just an example, but I don't intend on putting this out anywhere, so maybe I'll regret that later because I'll want to put it out somewhere to have an error message or something, but I'm not worried about that right now. So we've got our component object, and if we go into sign user up, then here we're going to disconnect all this stuff because I'm being very clever and using component objects. Now I need to type the properties, because otherwise it looks and it's like, oh no, not a parent component object. Like it looks and it sees, oh look, there's this stuff in a component, there's this stuff in a component object that is my parent, my most neighboring parent, but there are no outputs because I haven't defined them. So I have to define email, password, and you might complain and say, well, why can't this all be automatic? But actually there's an argument that doing things by hand makes you more methodical and it makes you more prone to checking things. So there's less chance that you're going to make a mistake actually in the long run, as opposed to just saying, oh, what if I spell something wrong? Well, maybe that's good that you go back and check it and look through your app several times instead of just having it all being done for you and then forget about it. So yeah, I wouldn't really bother complaining about it. So email is email and username, password is password, first name is first name, last name is last name, and so that's all going to be, when I type there, it all appears here. So it's traversed the two kind of levels that it needs to traverse to get here, and that's perfect. I still have my do hooked up, so that's cool. And that is, I think we're good there. Have I forgotten anything? What have I forgotten? I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't think I am. Cool. So if I do Richard at let's say my private email or something, just in case. And we do sign up. Nice. Cool. There we go. I'm signed up. So it did the step here. It was successful. So it didn't trigger the failure. It triggered the success, and it navigated me. And then in the dashboard, I see the one, the only, Richard Osborne signed up. Beautiful. So that's and using component objects. So it sometimes seems like this stuff is like a little bit over the top, but look how clean this is compared to if I had, you know, a full login form there and a full sign up form, and then beside each one there was the full sign up process and the full login process, and all the noodles connecting these different values from fields into the logic components. And now we just have this nice, clean, simple login and sign up form. So, and it works very, very well. Oh yeah, and the proof in the pudding was that we would type Richard at digitalbricks.io, and that would say that that's okay here. Oh, actually, oh, yeah. Okay, well, no, never mind. I was going to say it erases the email between switching. Could it conserve the email? Okay, one last thing. Sorry, one last thing. Is that not an Apple? Is that Steve Jobs? One last thing. So if parent component object has an email, why don't we put it recursively? Wow, that's going to be scary. Into the text. So make it the actual default text of that email input. That might sound crazy and it might look really weird, but let's do it for just a bit of fun. If you can't have fun while you develop, what's the point? Email goes to text. So that's probably not going to work. I'm probably being nuts. So this I've typed my email address already. I'm like, oh no, I already have an account. I'll go back there. Yeah. So it transfers the component object information into the field when the switch happens, and so then it maintains the same email. Nice. And if I were to log in, then it would say that's okay because I've got from the parent component object, I've got the right email because the email, although there's two email fields, they're going into the same object. So the value is just in one place and I can use that from that one place. Oh, something went wrong. I can't remember what my password is, doesn't matter. So cool. Oh, there's actually an error message here as well. Can I use that? Message? Oh yeah. No. Can I? Yeah, you can. Oh, that's cool. Okay, I'm gonna use that. Oh, sorry. Okay. One last thing, I promise. I want to use that error message in here. That would be, I think, a good idea because it's outputting pretty comprehensible, human-readable error messages. So let's use a string format node. I'm going to take the sorry something went wrong. I'm going to take that out. And I'm going to say here, sorry, something went wrong, double point, and then in curly brackets, error message, curly brackets, and then, oh, something went wrong, double point, add in the error message. So now it's something went wrong, invalid username password. And then we pass that formatted text into the message of the toast, and then ta-da! So the error from the node comes into. This is what I was talking about last time, that Noodle doesn't have a native error handling system to help the user on the front end see what went wrong. You have to put the things in place to transfer the information from the node graph and what's going wrong in the node graph into some sort of front end toast pop-up, whatever it is you want. But that's pretty cool. Okay, I'm definitely going to stop there for tonight because this has been a lot of fun and probably too much fun, and I need to take a break. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you back here for some more interesting fun in the next episode. Maybe actually creating the dashboard page. Imagine that.